Impressed you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So today, I'm delighted to be joined by Sam Barnes. Great to see you, Sam. And we haven't had many guys on the show recently, so it's good to be leveling it up. We've had a lot of ladies. We're leveling it up with folks. So it's great to see you. Thank you for making time to come on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So can you introduce yourself to the guests? No, they're the listeners. You're the guest. Can you just introduce yourself to the listeners?
Sure. I'm Sam Barnes, and I founded an adoption agency 2 years ago up in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And I am an adoptee myself, and my adoption was a closed adoption, and I ventured out to find my biological family in my 20s, I guess it was, and found them in my 30s. Took a few years. So I have raised a couple children now. I just think adoption is a wonderful thing if it's done ethically. And I don't know, in the United States, there's a lot of people in the industry, and a lot of not so ethical things happening. And I just see a need and an opportunity to do things a little bit better and expand that out a little bit. So yeah, that's me, kind of an introduction to my adoption side of me.
Yeah. Wow. So we have had adoptive mums that have started an agency. We've had a birth mum who now is the exec director up in Canada of the agency that helped her place her son 30 years ago.
Okay.
So it's great to have an adoptee that started an agency, because what we're talking about here is people with big hearts, big passion, and wanting to make a difference. They're using what has helped them to help others, and it's a beautiful place to be in, for all of us doing that. And it's a beautiful place for me to be in that, because that's who I talk to all day on the podcast. It's just,
I think to get into this, you almost had to have some experience. It had to have touched your life when you were younger, and I think all of us that do create something new, we have also seen the not great side of it. Adoption is a messy thing, and not many, from beginning to end with a expected mother, not many adoptions go as planned, and it's a lot of moving parts, and it's very emotional. And I think a lot of people see that, of course, it's a wonderful thing, and we just need to do it better. And it's not happening as often as it used to. And it's a very, and I think it should be happening more. And I think everybody that gets into it, sees the bright side of it and tries to do it the right way. I just see this huge opportunity across our whole country to do it and do it better. And I'm connecting now with birth mothers who have placed their child. I just think they're kind of the heroes in the whole thing, obviously. And they're out there, have a story to tell, whether it was great or not so great. And I just think we should, harvest them up and get them out telling their story. They're wanting to help. And so I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but that's kind of where I see it. I looked at the bigger picture, the statistics, and I thought, yeah, a guy getting into this is unusual, but I've had my own business for quite a few years doing something else. And I thought, I think I would understand how to do this, set this up the right way. I just have to find the right people to be boots on the ground. So here I am.
Yeah. So you talk about adoption being messy. Was yours messy? To what extent was it messy, or not messy?
Well, mine, in the old days before Roe versus Wade, things kind of changed there in 1974. Adoption kind of had to grow up a little bit and become more open. But I was before that. So I guess mine it wasn't that messy, but I guess it was a little, just because it was closed. And I think most adoptees have this curiosity, and they would someday like to meet, their blood relatives. And if nothing else, just to meet real quick. And then I had an open mind. If my birth mother didn't want a relationship with me, that was fine. I just wanted to meet her, look at her, give her a hug, and just say thank you, really, because I knew she was a teenager, and the parents that adopted me were just wonderful people who couldn't bear children, and they were ready for me. And I really never knew that they weren't my biological parents. It was really a wonderful, simple life. We didn't have that much, but I think it was a better life for me from 0 to 18 than I would have had with my biological 15-year-old mother. So mine wasn't that messy. My story is a little odd. The parents that adopted me passed away when I was 16 and 21. And so for me, that was a little bit messy. I really had nobody left then. And I started to go on that journey to find my biological parents, to get a new family, for me. And so that was difficult finding them. I was stubborn and wanted to do it myself instead of hiring an expert to do it. And it took quite a few years. So, but now I see there's a lot of people in adoption. The demand is just for an infant is just so great right now. You have all kinds of people. My agency gets couples and single people that would like an infant, that we never really predicted that we would hear from. And so the numbers that people estimate are true. There's over 1 million single people and couples that would like to adopt an infant. And I wish some of them would switch over to foster and be willing to take, a 5 to 10-year-old child and be that child's forever home. But there are just so many people wanting to adopt an infant. And now the international adoptions from the US, I just saw the number for 2020, it was only 1,600. There was only 1,600 international adoptions done in 2020. Of course, COVID had a lot to do with that, but there's usually 30 to 40,000. And so now the pressure is even greater here in the US. So that demand and that pressure is causing a lot of messy, I guess, and a lot of not so great motivations and some fraud. And so I guess that's the bigger picture of the messy. But then just the nuts and bolts of an adoption is, from what my experience, the ones that we have done, if the people in charge of the adoption, the attorney, if an attorney's handling it or an agency, if they're handling it, if they don't give the expected mother what she deserves, then it can get messy, without a lot of people even knowing it. She's the hero in the whole thing. And I just feel like we don't give her enough love, and we don't give her enough post-birth support and counseling. And then the parents that take the child and raise it, a lot of times they don't give the visitations that they agreed on. The birth mother can change her mind at the last minute. The legal part doesn't seem to be as messy as it used to be. But I also don't think that the birth fathers get enough support. I think it's coming from, a male side of things. I really have compassion for the birth father too. And a lot of times the people handling adoptions would rather just, kind of cut him out and not give him the rights that he deserves either. So yeah, it's just it can be a socially, it's a social work kind of thing, but I think we need to involve people that have been there and done it instead of social workers and then legal people. I think we really need to involve, we need mentors in the middle of adoptions that have been there, either adoptees like you and I, or even better, the women that did place a child and they have experienced all of the emotions and everything. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Long answer to your question, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I want to take you back to your personal story, really. I like, losing your adoptive mum and dad at the age of when you were 16, and one died when you were 16, one died in 21. That must have been a hell of a time.
Yeah, it was. Everybody was healthy until I was about 13, and then my mom's diabetic, but she handled that pretty well. Took her shot every day, and but my father had a kidney transplant that went fine, but then he had an aneurysm in his brain when I was 13, and stayed at the hospital for 6 months. And my mother and I were fine without him, but when he came home, he wasn't the same. And then my mom had a stroke and fell and broke her hip, and I became a caretaker.
Yeah.
And I knew that was a little unusual for my age, 14, 15, but it was just what I knew. And the whole time I was just so grateful for them. I was told I was adopted probably when I was 10. And I think that's a crucial thing, that the parents do communicate that with their children. They don't really have to if it's closed adoption. They can wait a while. Today, most adoptions are open. But I think my adoption was really healthy because they told me probably as early as I could have disseminated the whole thing and made some sense of it and understood it and just, put it on the shelf. They didn't wait till I was 13, 14, 15. So I knew that, and I knew down the road I was going to go searching. And so I was just so content with them, and, life threw them a curveball with some bad health, and I was pretty sure they weren't going to be around much longer. And it was my job to care for them. And I was pretty much a soul, their only child. My mother had given birth when she was a teenager to a couple children, but they were quite a bit older than me. So they were out of the house by the time I came around. And yeah, it was fine. Other than I had to figure out how to go to school, play sports, and care for sick parents. Way beyond, where my friends are now. I'm 50 years old, and my friends are now starting to do that. And boy, it seems like 2 lifetimes ago when I did that. But
yeah. What did you learn about yourself through that?
Oh, through that. Well, I became a Christian and kind of leaned on God a lot through that. And, I would pray that, geez, get me through this. I'm sure I can do it alone, but I would like your help. I learned that I am stronger than I thought possible. I had people in this small town I grew up in just scratching their head, wondering why I don't need more help. Like, how are you taking care of these people and holding it together and staying in school and getting good grades and being on the teams that I love to be on. I just learned that I could do a lot, I guess. And I didn't use that as an excuse to, get into trouble and go to parties and do things. It probably made me stay on the straight and narrow because I knew I had a very important job to do and I had to keep my mom and dad alive. I mean, they took me, they didn't have to take me. I would think about that. They were my heroes. They went and got me from a 15-year-old in Montana who made the right decision, but to place me, but they didn't have to take me. And so I just felt like they were my father and mother, and I owed it to them. Whatever they needed, I needed to do for them. And they always said, you're going to college no matter what. Nobody in our families has ever went to college. You're going to get your degree, and that was their goal. So my dad hung in there long enough to see me graduate from college, and then he passed away a couple months later. I think he was hanging on for that. And then I knew that I had been through a lot and emotionally more mature than anybody my age. And I said, okay, God's got something bigger for me. I don't know what it is, but at that point I wanted, get married, have my own children, experience, a family, give my children a family. And then I just had it in the back of my mind that I was going to find my biologicals, and there was something in adoption that I loved, and I was going to do something with that experience. And so here I am. I think it took me about 10 years longer than it should have to get involved in adoption, but here I am, and I just see so much opportunity. So yeah, it was an interesting youth for me, for sure. But I was healthy, and I've always been healthy, and so nobody needs to feel sorry for me. I got through it.
I just wanted to, I do talk about this when it comes up, but I'd like to use that thing that you shared about as a bit of a exposition point. When you said you were stronger than you thought you were, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stronger than I thought was possible, something like that. You were more capable.
Right. Yeah.
I this resilience thing is so important in my view, and also in my view, 99.9% of people have got resilience wrong. So, and I had it wrong as well. So I thought that that we got stronger, and we got stronger through the tough time. And the saying is, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
Right.
And people think that resilience and this whole kind of resilience is a hell of a buzzword at the moment. And the whole resilience training industry, or, do you know what I mean? Like all the people trying to sell us resilience in any format that it is. They use all sorts of different things, but it's all based on the premise that it's like going to a gym. We get stronger. The pitch is, you're feeling weak and vulnerable right now. You can feel stronger by working with us. Pay me this, and I'll make you strong. And I think it's totally wrong, because for me, resilience is revealed, not strengthened. So what happened to you was you went through some hardship, and that revealed the strength that you had.
Yeah.
And the reason that I think that's really important is because I'd love the listeners to get to see it right before I did. So I didn't see this right until I was about, I don't know, 52 or something like that, 2 years ago. I thought resilience was strengthened. And then you kind of, then we're looking outside ourselves. We're looking outside ourselves, like, how can I become more resilient? And once you realize, and you have to see it for yourself, once you realize the strength that you have within you already, then you're good to go with that. You stop looking. I stopped looking for what was going to make me more resilient. But we have to see it for ourselves. And there's one of the little sayings that I came up with. There's no such thing as a secondhand insight. We have to say it. We have to see it for ourselves. And the reason I'm going into this exposition on this point is because I'd love the listeners to see their resilience for themselves, whether they're adopted parents, whether they're adoptees. They've got it within them already to get through this stuff. They don't need any more. They don't need any more skills. They don't need a mindset change. They don't need to. They don't need. There's an awful lot of things that they don't need,
right?
Because it's already within you, and that's kind of, it's one of the key points of. I've got this Thrive model, thriving adoptee. So the R in thriving is resilience.
Yeah,
and this is why I bang on about it, because once you realize you've already got it, you're golden. You're there. Stop worrying about it. Because I used to I used to worry about worrying, and then I'd worry about worrying about worrying. And why aren't I resilient? No, resilience is unveiled. It's like, and the metaphor I often use is this rubber ball. We're rubber balls. We're born to bounce back. So, kids fall over when they're learning to walk, and they get up and they go again. And they're not emotionally scarred by the fact that they've fallen over.
Right. They're still walking.
Yeah. They just get up and walk again. But then if we take the same thing, project ourselves 30 years later, we're thinking of doing something new, and we're worried about failing. We've whatever the opposite of resilience is. So let's call it fragility. That is learned. We learn, and we've got all these people telling us that we can't handle it. That we can't, like, we shouldn't be feeling like. I was just talking to an adoptee who's coming on the show in a couple of weeks, and before, and she was told, well, no, you shouldn't be thinking like that. Those feelings are wrong. And like, this is nuts, isn't it? This is nuts. So we say, is there such a thing as a wrong feeling? But we think that we're either, and this metaphor is from a mentor of mine called Michael Neal. So he says, like, we think we are. We think that we're like, like a china vase or something. So if it falls off the mantelpiece, it's going to break, and that's how we're brought up to, think that we're weak. And then the other metaphor, the other option is like we're an orange. So we fall off the table whilst we're unpacking the groceries, and we're bruised. We're bruised inside. But we're kind of outside on. We're fine on the outside. But if we keep falling over, then eventually that we're going to become bruised, and we can become damaged goods. And the whole idea of damaged goods is big in adoption, isn't it? You're damaged goods. You've got a primal wound. You're fundamentally flawed. All this sort of stuff that I don't agree with, if I put it politely. But we're not like a vase, and we're not like an orange that's bruised. We're like a rubber ball. We're born to bounce.
Yeah, I agree. hmm Yeah, I was kind of confused when I was going through my teenage years, when people would question, like, how are you okay? Why are you okay? Why don't you need all of us? And I would just think, well, it's just the three of us here in this house, and we've got to figure it out. And, we've been through some things, and we just have a deep love for each other. And, we have enough money. We're okay. And so I didn't ever ask for help. And going through it, I never once thought, oh, I'm going to need counseling after this. Like, there hasn't been one day in the 30 years since then that I've ever said, oh, I got to go see a counselor, because I'm of the mindset that you just explained. We have it, the things that we go through make us instantly better. It's okay to be emotional and be sad, and then you have grieving, and you got to get through that. But I always knew inside of me that I was going to come out of that better, and I was going to be able to help other people who haven't been through trials in their lives. And I never pitied myself. I always thought, well, it's a little frustrating, I'd rather talk about emotional things. And after seeing a movie, I want to talk about what it means to me. And my friends, they just want to see the movie and laugh and move on. So I had a hard time finding people to really have deep relationships with. It seemed like I liked the people who had been through stuff, but I never, yeah, I totally agree with you. We need to just remember what we've been through, reach down a little deeper, find that strength, and just say, oh yeah, I've been through that. I'm good. I can get through this, and learn from those things. And then, I think it causes us to think bigger, go create something, go see a need in society. And because of what you've been through, not only do you not need, a pity party or people to help you, deal with that, like reach down, find your strength, and then go find a need and kind of be a leader. And then the key with me is finding people better than me in certain things, hire people. All you have to do is ask, get online and find people, and then surround yourself with good people. And then, instead of needing counseling and help all the time, turn it around and use it for something new and help people. So I guess I'm going a little farther than what you were saying there, but yeah, you're kind of preaching to the choir with that idea.
So what I had an interesting comment from a fellow adoptee and an email. She's going to be coming in the show hopefully next month, I think. And she says, she talks about an episode of the podcast that I did, which was a monologue, right? Just rather than an interview. And she was talking about this idea that that we're damaged goods, that us adoptees are damaged goods. And she loved the fact that I was, well, fundamentally disagreeing with that.
Okay.
And she said she thinks that that's a message that adoptive parents need to hear. Because if they treat us like my mum and dad never treated me like I was flawed in any way, but if parents treat, like we've got this trauma obsession, right? At the moment, we seem to have a trauma obsession. I think we should have a hope obsession. I think I think we need to be trauma informed, but we are not our trauma, right? None of us, like everybody's been through some sort of trauma. Nobody actually does the nobody talks about the stats of trauma, sort of like post-traumatic stress disorder. only actually affects 10 to 20% of people that go through traumatic stress events. So 80 to 90% of people don't suffer from it. But we've got this media that's obsessed with the weakness. Nobody talks about post-traumatic growth. And we're obsessed with the trauma, but we're not our trauma. The trauma is, it's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's a thought. It's anger. It's loss. It's good. But that we're the canvas upon which, or we're the screen upon which that trauma is appearing as a pixel. It's not who we are. It's not there all the time. It comes and goes, and so what do you make of all that?
Well, I think there are a few adoptions where an adopted child maybe isn't treated the same as the biological children, and there is some trauma there. But you can't just make a blanket statement that say adoptees are suffering with trauma or going to someday, and you're going to have to deal with it, because I think most of us are just so grateful, and we've seen the beauty of unselfishness with our expectant mother, even though we might not know her, placing us with a family that's more prepared to parent us. And there's just like so much love right there. And so we're a product of that. I think as we grow up in that family and we're treated as their natural children, I think that instills in us this real strength that can get us through things later too. So yeah, I don't know that many. I know some adopted people who aren't interested in finding their biological parents, and I try and twist their arm a little bit, go, I think it's going to be better than you think when you're reunited. And just because most of the adoptions from people our age were closed, and you need your health history there, and through 23andMe now, you can find people a lot easier. So I kind of coach people to go find their biologicals, and because I'm just not afraid of it, and I don't think anybody should assume that it is a very major thing in our lives that we weren't raised by the people who created us. But I don't, other than the children that weren't included maybe quite as much as the biological children, I think most of us are doing really well. And my answer to somebody that is going through some trauma would be like, go make a friend with somebody in that who went through the same thing you went through and who has overcome it. Like, don't just go to a general counselor, and pay for session after session after session. Go find somebody that specifically was adopted also and had a great experience, and just like become buddies with them. And like, I think they pull out of it pretty quick. So I think if we match people like in my adoption movement that we're about to create, we're going to match birth moms as mentors with women currently expecting children. They're the best. That's the best match they could find, help them make the decision on what they want to do with the baby. And so I'm just such a fan of mentoring. And I think we can help people quicker that way with the right people.
Yeah. We need to learn from somebody that's walked in our shoes, and just a bit ahead.
Yeah.
And we need to avoid people that are behind us, because there's so much. I talk about this a lot on the show. There's so much anger in some circles that there's no healing in those spaces, those Facebook groups.
Boy, I've been told about some pretty negative Facebook groups out there for birth moms, and there are a lot of birth moms that did not have a good experience, and so that's not helping the future of adoption. I'm trying to find the ones that are positive about it, and we just set up a new Facebook group a couple weeks ago, actually, and we're going to keep things very positive on it and try and help people that aren't the women that aren't positive, had a bad experience. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of hard feelings, and I don't know, people are not healing very well, I guess. And so I guess all of us that had good experiences need to find a way to just share our positive experiences better.
Yeah.
So your podcast is a great way to do that.
Yeah. We can, because I got a little. I didn't have a messy time at all until I hit 40, and then I kind of like I made my own. I kind of made up my own little bit of trauma, really.
Okay.
I see. So I talk about it like making it like a snowball, a trauma ball. So like you make a snowball, you scoop some snow up, you make it into the size of an egg in your hand, and then you pat it together into a ball, and then you kind of roll it along the ground, and it gets more snow on it. Well, so that's what I kind of like. That's what I did.
Okay.
That's what my ego did, or what's what my that's kind of like the sensitive part of me did that. And then I had to bring it out into the light, bring the snowball out into the light of day, and put an industrial heater on it, and it melted.
Okay.
It melted. Then there's a bit of a puddle, and then that evaporated, and there's nothing there anymore.
How long did that take?
It was in a couple of stages. But I was struggling with some business stuff. That took longer to shift.
That prolonged it a little.
Than the adoption stuff. So I've been down the trauma hole, not as far as a lot of other people, but I turned around and looked back up the light. So that's just why I say that I think that we should be trauma informed but hope obsessed. Because
there you go.
A lot of people, I can see how the further we go down the trauma rabbit hole, the darker it gets, and it just gets darker and darker, and we see life less and less clearly. And I'm thinking,
right,
I'm thinking that you talked about becoming a Christian so that kind of when you were going through the tough stuff, and that kind of that faith that you had was probably that was probably a big thing to help you through it, I guess.
I was attending a youth group and had great youth group leaders, and that for sure was part of it. And I picked friends that had a faith also. And I was thinking the other day, my parents, were in their 40s, but they had the bodies of somebody in their 70s. And I gravitated towards friends whose parents were older also, for some reason. But what you were just mentioning, I would have had more mess and more trauma when I was reunited with my biological mother when I was 35. if she would have not wanted to meet me, or I was strong and I said, oh, it doesn't matter, I just want to try. But if she would want to meet me, oh man, that would have created some trauma in my life. Like, wait a minute. I wouldn't have given up. I probably would have went, knocked on her door and said, no, come on, just 10 minutes here. I just need a hug. I just need to say a thank you to you, that I'm thankful. But she was just so gracious. That first phone call we had, she wanted to meet. So we met a month later, and she wanted to help me go find my biological father. So I said, hold on. I gave her a couple months to get to know her first. And then I said, okay, now go tell him. She found him pretty easily. They didn't have a relationship when they were teenagers, but she knew where his brother was at. So that all just fit in so well. And my biological father never had any more biological children. So he really wanted to meet me, and I had 2 children, and that now they know their grandparents, and I brought them in, and my kids were awesome about it, and called them grandma and grandpa, and they still do. And I was lucky, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Maybe some of that luck was just how I handled it, because I was so gracious and so thoughtful for any of their time. And we're all friends now. There's a love there. But I've been able to avoid a lot of the trauma. When you find your biological family, it's never what you envisioned for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. But sometimes it's a little better. Sometimes, you just never know what you're going to get. And like, I had no expectations. I didn't care. I think if you go into that, starting an adult relationship with your biologicals, thinking it's going to be something, you are setting yourself up for trauma. So just go into that being happy with 1 hour, or whatever. And maybe you're going to walk away and not want a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Or I know my wife's parents were really nervous that I was going to find people that, were going to want to take advantage of us because we were all college educated, and you never know. And I said, you know what, you guys need to relax a little bit here. I have already buried my parents, and I have this love for these people that made the right decision that you don't understand. And I need to do this, and I'm going to handle it the right way. I have no expectations for a future relationship with them. And so I didn't set myself up for anything. I think that's a key. That's a key thing.
I think I was going to ask you, I was trying to figure out how to ask you that question, right?
Okay.
And the thing that I came to was the thing I was going to ask you, and you've expressed it far better actually than I'm doing it, but I'm giving somebody a different metaphor, right? Just in case it rings, because different metaphors land for different people, right? Mm-hmm. So I was saying, were you going into meeting, your search for your biological one? Was that going to be the icing on the cake of your life, or was that going to be a major segment? That was going to be a big, like a big chunk of it? Were you looking for it to be? Have you ever played Trivial Pursuit?
Sure.
Yeah. So were you thinking that it was going to fill five of the 6 segments?
Right.
Yeah. You weren't doing that, I don't think. You
no, I knew it was going to fill 1
at all. Sorry.
Yeah, I knew it was going to fill 1 of those 5, the most important one. I was pretty stubborn about meeting her. I'd put it off a while. I made the decision to not hire somebody to do it for me. I was going to do it myself. I wasn't going to do it, intrude on her life. Her current husband might not even know she had a child when she was 15. I was going to be very careful and very respectful of him. but I was going to be very happy with just that one piece of the 5. It was going to be the most important one to me. And if that's all I got, I was going to be content. I didn't need to meet my father. That would have been number 2. And then if I get a chance to meet my cousins and anybody else, that's, I guess, the 3rd one. And then a lifetime friendship with them would be another one. And now everything has just went so great. My biological mom is now going to help with our adoption movement. And she still has some regret and apologizes to me that she placed me. And that gets me a little fired up because she's still not understanding how grateful I am, I guess, that she did what she did. But so back to, I just didn't have, I think I was smart, I was mature adult then and been through all that stuff. I think I just knew to not set my heart up to get broke by creating this amazing angel of a woman, and she's going to take me in. And I never did that. I was like, okay, it's just a person. I know she has blonde hair and blue eyes. That's all I knew about her. My parents had a little paragraph description about her, and she sounded sweet on the phone. I know she's married. I know I have a younger half sister. I can't wait to meet her. But if that's it, then I will be so content that I found her. And so I think setting low expectations for reuniting is a real key. And don't expect that it's going to heal you. It could make you upset. She could have wanted to come live with me immediately, and say, well, I'm the grandma, I'm the new nanny, I'm moving in. And I would have never let that happen, like, no. And so she never did that. We were just very respectful of each other. So yeah, I didn't have any expectations other than I had this desire to see her. So for the first time in my life, I was going to see somebody I was related to blood wise, and she doesn't look that much like me. I look more like my dad's side of the family, father's. But I just wanted to see her, hold her, and say thank you. I think the thank you part was what I needed to do. And so I could have done that over the phone if she changed her mind. So yeah, set low expectations, I think, is a key.
Cool. So I'm going to put a link in, obviously, to your site, to the agency's site and your social channels, so people can get in touch with you. But when we had our pre-recording call a month or so ago, whatever it was, you talked about what you were trying to do and how you're trying to change it and the movement that you're creating. And I want you to please share that with the listeners, because I think it's sending shivers down my spine in a good way. In a good way, guys. Well, yes, maybe the goosebumps, I don't know, or turkey flesh, whatever you call it in the States. But I love what you're doing, and I want you to be able to share that with the listeners, because I'm sure that they'll love it too.
Okay. Yeah. So my biological mom stayed in a different town in a maternity home when she got the positive pregnancy test. Left town, her family was struggling a little bit, and they said, okay, we can't really handle this. We're going to send her to a Catholic ran maternity home. And so when I met her, she had nothing but great things to say about those few months. And I said, oh, I think I'm going to look around and see how many of those there are. I have never heard of one. So I found out that there wasn't many of those left. And so I thought there was a need there. And so that was my first passion, was to start one or more maternity homes to give young women a chance just to go and be safe and be taken care of and make the right decision for them. So then that switched to, no, I'm going to do an adoption agency instead for zoning reasons. I bought some property and I was going to do a maternity home, but it got a little frustrating. And then I realized I can make a bigger difference with an agency, and then maybe funnel some of the profits into the maternity home. So I switched gears. The maternity home idea is still on my to-do list. But so then I applied for my adoption agency license in the state of Washington. I got that. And then I started diving into that, and I started researching the current statistics on adoption and abortion and unplanned pregnancies and learning. And it hit me that, boy, there's a bigger need here that I don't see anybody doing anything about. And it's bigger than my agency. So I took over a nonprofit and a 501c3, and back to the birth moms being, I think, the most effective people to just educate on adoption. And adoption is just not happening very often anymore. Abortions are 45-1 versus adoptions currently. That number just, like, I fell out of my chair. I verified it.
It's 8. It just, the numbers when you shared them with me last time we spoke, I think you said it's 800,000 abortions.
Yeah.
Did you say?
Yeah.
800,000.
Currently about 800,000 in our country versus 20,000 adoptions. So 40, that's 40-1. I think it's the actual numbers are like 45-1. I think adoptions are even declining each year going forward here. That's what people expect to happen. Half the agencies that were open in the US 10 years ago aren't open anymore. So agencies were great because we can provide living expenses to the expectant mom. We can provide free counseling. We can, let her choose the couple she wants, have a relationship with them going forward. I just looked at adoption. There's not as much shame if a girl is walking around a high school with a 7-month, pregnant tummy. She's not getting shamed like she used to. And so to me, like, there's never been a better time for adoption. But actually, the numbers of adoption have never been worse, and the abortion numbers have never been higher. So I talked to people smarter than me with more years experience, and they all agreed, and they said, yeah, there's nothing we can really do about it. And I said, oh, no, I think there is. So we have to get the birth moms out there and the adoptees. I haven't dove into finding people like you and I much yet, but I have talked to a lot of birth moms, and I've asked them, would you like to be a mentor in your community? And I was thinking 30-40% of them would say yes. Oh my gosh. No, it's 80-90% of them say, oh, I've been always wanting to use my story and my experience to help other women. And so I said, okay, this needs to happen. They're out there. We just have to empower them and put them to work. And so that's what my new nonprofit, it's going to be called Modern Adoption. That's what it's called. The website should go up next week. And that has really gotten some people excited, and I have some high hopes for it. It'll be a, pro-life / mainly pro-birth mother movement, where we're also very supportive of girls that have went through an abortion, and very few of them get counseling afterwards. So we're going to provide free counseling to them. We're going to give free counseling to women who have went through an adoption, no matter how old they are now. If they haven't dealt with their grief well enough, we're going to help them with that. We're going to pay for free ultrasounds whenever we can. So an expectant mom can see, her fetus and hear the heartbeat. I just think it's time for somebody to put all that together, because I think it will take off pretty quickly. I mean, pro-life, pro-choice, I think they both will support it.
Yeah.
So
by the time this goes out, listeners, by the time you're listening to this, then that site will be
sure.
live.
Yeah.
So I'll link in the show notes so that listeners can get involved. So get involved
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, no matter where people are at, anywhere.
Wherever you're at, right? Wherever you're
Right.
at, get involved, get in contact with Sam, and let's get some traction in this fantastic movement that he's creating.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't think of the great, like how great it's going to be. I just get emotional. Yeah, that people will support this. And in turn, the nonprofit will support. I don't even know, it's going to evolve, but I think it's going to evolve into something, pro-life is just so legislative and so anti-abortion. And I think we just have to put our arms around women who are abortion minded and tell them about the third option. That's our goal. We're not going to coerce them into changing their mind. We're just going to give them the facts because nobody else is doing it. They can go into a pro-life pregnancy center and they're getting a brochure on adoption. They're not really getting what modern open adoption should be and could be for them. They don't know that living expenses could be paid, and they don't know that we would like to hire them after they give birth in their community to be a mentor. Nobody's telling them. And it just kind of blows me away. Like, okay, it's 2021. Well, why have we let so many girls choose abortion? And if you were to ask them today, would you have done that? And now you have to deal with what comes after an abortion, for the next rest of your life. Some get over it and some don't have to deal with it, but a lot do.
Yeah.
Would you have thought about adoption if somebody would have told you about it? Over 50% have told me, well, yeah, I never knew.
Yeah.
So in 2021, I just don't understand why they don't know. So
well,
that's going to change.
they're not being told, as you say. So
they're not.
Then the option's not on there. The option's not, and it's a funny thing for me because I have never really thought about that at all. And I don't consider myself anti-abortion or pro-choice or anything. I have no idea of this, but the fact that when you told me that they're not being told that this is an option, that's like, how could you not do that? You let them set out the options, let them have all the options, and they decide. We're not trying to push anything.
That's all. Yep.
That's all
we're trying to do, because 43-1 is just wrong. That means they're not getting the education and the support that they deserve. That number, those numbers need to change, and we're going to change them, and it's not going to be that hard. We're going to double the amount of adoptions in the US, I think, without much effort. We just have to be smart about it.
Yeah.
I mean, put the right people out there, boots on the ground and on social media, saying the right things and with love and not shame and, not judging, just education. And I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I'm excited.
So check out what Sam's doing, please, people. And thanks for coming on the show, Sam. I love what you do.
Thank you, Simon, for your time. We should do it again.
We will do.
Okay.
See you soon, Ben. Cheers.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.